Captain Do-hyun Kim stood at the viewport of the Earthship Indomitable, watching the massive space station grow larger. Stars dotted the black space around it. This was humanity's big moment, their first official meeting with the Galactic Council. "Captain, we will dock in 10 minutes, said Lieutenant Ji-woo Park. She stood straight, her uniform perfect. The weight of their mission showed in her serious face. "Thank you, Lieutenant. Is our team ready?" asked Captain Kim. "Yes, sir. The diplomats are prepared, and security has been briefed." Captain Kim nodded. He had been chosen to lead this mission because of his calm thinking and strong will. Earth had discovered it wasn't alone in the universe just 3 years ago. Now they were asking to join the community of spacefaring races. The Indomitable approached the huge ring-shaped station. It sparkled with thousands of lights, and ships of many strange designs moved around it. Humanity was the newest player, in a very old game. "Sir, I'm getting some odd readings from the station," said Communications Officer Han Sol-choi. "Their security protocols seem unusual." Lieutenant Park frowned. "How so?" "They want our weapons system shut down completely, not just locked, and they're requesting access to our ship's computer network." Captain Kim walked to the console. "Deny the network access. Tell them it's against Earth regulations, but comply with the weapons shutdown." He turned to his security chief. "Sergeant Bayek, I want your team ready but not obvious. Keep sidearms hidden but accessible." "Yes, sir," Sergeant Min Ho-baek replied. "I don't like this either." "It's probably nothing," said Captain Kim. "Just different ways between species. Remember, some of these civilizations have been spacefaring for thousands of years." The ship docked with a gentle bump. Captain Kim straightened his uniform and addressed his team. "Today we represent not just our nations or ourselves, but all of humanity. Our job is to show the galaxy that humans deserve a place at their table." The welcome area of the station was huge and bright. The ceiling arched high above them, with light streaming through clear panels. Beings of many shapes, sizes, and colors moved about. Some looked almost human. Others were completely alien, floating gas clouds in containment fields, tall, insect-like creatures, and small, furry beings with too many eyes. An Alarian representative approached. The Alarians looked mostly human, except for their blue-tinted skin and large, all-black eyes. This one wore flowing robes with symbols of office. "Captain Kim of Earth, welcome to Harmony Station. I am Coordinator Naxil. We are pleased to host humanity's first formal visit to the Council." Captain Kim bowed slightly. "Thank you for the welcome, Coordinator. We are honored to be here. The summit begins in 3 hours. Until then, your team may rest in the quarters we've prepared. There will be a welcome reception before the formal meetings." As they followed Naxil through the station, "Lieutenant," Park whispered to the captain, "Sir, I count at least 20 security checkpoints. That seems excessive for a peace conference." "I noticed too," said Captain Kim quietly. "Stay alert, but remember we're guests. We follow their rules while watching our backs." The Earth delegation was given a large suite with separate rooms and a common area. The windows looked out on the stunning view of nearby planets and the swirl of a distant nebula. "It's beautiful," said Dr. Seo-jin Kang, the lead scientist. "Think of all we can learn from these civilizations." Captain Kim smiled at her excitement but turned to Sergeant Bayek. "Sweep the rooms. Check for listening devices or anything unusual." "Already on it, sir," said Bayek, his team quietly working, with small scanners. The reception hall buzzed with delegates from 30 different worlds. Servers moved through the crowd with food and drinks made for many types of biology. Music that sounded strange to human ears played softly. Captain Kim and his team stayed together, accepting greetings from curious aliens. Most seemed friendly, asking polite questions about Earth. A few stayed away, watching the humans with what seemed like concern. "They're studying us," said Lieutenant Park, "like we're a new animal in a zoo." "We are new to them," replied Captain Kim. "And unknown things can be scary." A tall, thin alien with gray skin approached. "You are the humans, yes? I am Ambassador Krell of the Vindari Confederation. Your kind is unexpected." Most new species take centuries to develop after contact. Humans tend to work quickly when motivated, said Captain Kim. So we have heard, said Krell. There are concerns about your species. Your history is quite violent. We've had our struggles, admitted Captain Kim. But we've learned from them. That's why we're here, to join a peaceful community and grow beyond our past. Before Krell could respond, the lights flickered. A moment later, a loud boom shook the station. People stumbled and glasses fell to the floor and broke. Captain Kim grabbed his communicator. Kim to Indomitable. Report. Only static answered. For him. The station's alarms began to blare. Red emergency lights flashed. Panic spread through the crowd as more explosions sounded in the distance. Security team to me, ordered Captain Kim. His people moved quickly, forming a protective circle around the Earth diplomats. The main doors burst open. Armed figures in black armor rushed in, weapons raised. They weren't station security. Their armor was mismatched and they moved with aggressive purpose. Nobody move, shouted their leader, a large being with ridged skin and 4 arms, each holding a weapon. This station is now under the control of the Void Collective. Screams and shouts filled the room. Some delegates tried to run but were quickly caught by the armed intruders. I am Commander Krax, the leader announced. Your governments have ignored our demands for too long. Now you will listen. Captain Kim watched carefully, noting the positions of the attackers and possible exits. He caught Lieutenant Park's eye and made a small hand signal. She nodded almost invisibly. Coordinator Naxel stepped forward, hands raised. Please, there's no need for violence. The Council will hear your grievances. The time for talk is over, said Krax. Now is the time for action. Each of your worlds will receive our demands within the hour. You have exactly 1 planetary rotation to comply, or we start executing delegates. The room fell silent with shock. You, Krax pointed at different delegates. The Vindari, the Ilarians, the Telnashi, and, the new species, the humans. Your leaders will be the first to receive our terms. Captain Kim said nothing, his face calm. The attackers began separating the delegates by species, herding them into groups. One approached Captain Kim. Your weapons, hand them over. We are unarmed, said Captain Kim, as required by station protocol. The attacker scanned him, then moved to the next human. Coordinator Naxel was brought to Krax. You must set up communication, channels to our governments, the Ilarian said, voice shaking. This is the standard procedure in these situations. Of course, said Kraxix. Each senior delegate will contact their homeworld and deliver our demands, starting with you. As Naxil was taken away, Captain Kim whispered to Lieutenant Park, how many attackers do you count? At least 30 in this room, probably more throughout the station. And they've cut communications with our ship, added Captain Kim. Standard terrorist tactic. An attacker shoved a communications device toward Captain Kim. You, human, turn to contact your leaders. Captain Kim took the device but didn't activate it. I said, contact your government, the attacker demanded. No, said Captain Kim simply. The room went quiet again. Even the attackers seemed surprised. What did you say? Asked Krax, walking over. I said no, repeated Captain Kim. I will not deliver your demands. This is not how this works, said Krax, pointing a weapon at him. You call your leaders and tell them our terms or I kill you now. Humans don't bargain with terrorists, said Captain Kim calmly. It's not just our policy, it's our principle. Coordinator Naxil looked horrified. Captain, please, this is the protocol. We negotiate to save lives. Not where I come from, said Captain Kim. He stared directly at Krax. Whatever you're planning, know this. If you harm any of us, Earth won't rest until every member of your collective is brought to justice. Lieutenant Park leaned close to him. Sir, with respect, this goes against standard galactic procedure. We're not the galaxy, Captain Kim replied quietly. We're humans, and we have our own way of handling this. While everyone's attention was on him, Captain Kim pressed a hidden button on his uniform collar. A small light blinked 3 times, the signal that Protocol Omega was now in effect. Somewhere in the depths of space, a message was racing toward Earth, and when it arrived, the Void Collective would learn why humans refused to bargain with terrorists. Defense Minister Tae-Wan Lee sat in the dimly lit war room deep beneath Seoul. The walls were lined with screens showing maps and data. Men and women in military uniforms moved quickly between stations, their faces serious. "Minister, we've received a signal from Captain Kim's ship," said a young officer. "It's Protocol Omega." Minister Lee's face grew hard. He had hoped never to hear those words. Protocol Omega meant only one thing: a terrorist situation with hostages. "Alert the Security Council. Emergency meeting in 30 minutes, he ordered. Within the hour, 12 people sat around a large round table. They were the highest-ranking military and government officials on Earth. Admiral Sun Mi-yoon stood at the front of the room pointing to a holographic display of the space station. At 800 hours, Captain Kim activated Protocol Omega, she said. "We've had no direct communication since, but our deep space monitors detected weapons fire on the station, followed by a communication blackout." "Do we know who's responsible?" asked the Prime Minister. Admiral Yoon nodded. "Our intelligence suggests a group called the Void Collective. They're known pirates and terrorists operating in that sector. They've done this before." Minister Lee tapped his fingers on the table. "And how did the other species handle previous attacks?" "According to our files," said Admiral Yoon, "they negotiated, paid ransoms, released prisoners." A murmur went through the room. "That explains why Captain Kim activated Protocol Omega instead of following their procedures," said Minister Lee. "He knew we would have a different response." "What are our options?" asked the Prime Minister. Admiral Yoon changed the display. "The station is here, at the edge of Valerian space. It would take our main fleet 2 weeks to reach it." "Too long," said Minister Lee. "Yes," agreed Admiral Yoon. "But we have 3 special tactics vessels conducting exercises in this region. They could be there in 22 hours. "How many personnel?" asked the Defense Minister. 42 combat ready. Soldiers on the lead ship, the Silent Arrow." The Prime Minister looked troubled. "Against how many terrorists?" "Our estimate is between 50 and 100, said Admiral Yoon. "But they have the advantage of position and hostages." Silence fell over the room. Each person there understood what this meant. Minister Lee finally spoke. "For centuries on Earth, we learned one truth the hard way. Giving in to terrorists only creates more terrorism. We will not bring that curse to the stars." "But the risk to our people," began the Foreign Minister. "Is exactly why we must act decisively," interrupted Minister Lee. "Captain Kim and his crew knew the risks when they accepted this mission. They also know we would never abandon them." The Prime Minister nodded slowly. "Put it to a vote. All in favor of authorizing special tactics operation." Every hand in the room went up. "Then it's decided," said the Prime Minister. "May God help us all." Commander Jin Ho Kang stood before his team on the bridge of the Silent Arrow. The ship was small, built for speed and stealth rather than comfort. Its dark hull absorbed light rather than reflecting it, making it nearly invisible against the blackness of space. "The mission is simple," said Commander Kang. "The execution will be anything but." He showed them the layout of the space station. "We have 42 operators against an unknown number of hostiles. They have prisoners, including our own people. We will be outnumbered and outgunned." No one spoke. These men and women were Earth's elite fighters. They didn't need to be told. The odds. "Our advantage is surprise," continued Commander Kang. "The galaxy doesn't know what humans are capable of, and they don't know about this." He touched a control, and an image appeared of their ship. Its surface seemed to ripple and change, blending with the stars behind it. "Adaptive camouflage," said Commander Kang. "Inspired by Earth's octopus, it will get us close enough to breach the station at these 3 points." Sergeant Ha-Jun Choi raised his hand. "Rules of engagement, sir? Protect the hostages at all costs. Eliminate any armed resistance. We take no prisoners unless they surrender immediately. Commander Kang looked each soldier in the eye. We are not going there to talk. Time to target? Asked Lieutenant Song Yi-han, his second in command. 18 hours, replied Commander Kang. Get some rest. When we arrive, there won't be time for sleep. As the team dispersed, Lieutenant Han stayed behind. Sir, I need to ask. The chances of success. Commander Kang's face was grim. Low. Very low. But the alternative is worse. The aliens won't understand, said Lieutenant Han. They'll think we're crazy. Maybe we are, said Commander Kang. But better to be thought crazy than weak. Back on the space station, the situation had grown worse. The delegates were kept in the main hall, surrounded by armed guards. Some of the aliens were crying or praying. Others sat in shocked silence. Captain Kim and his team stayed together, their faces calm despite the danger. It had been nearly 20 hours since the attack began. Commander Krax entered the room, followed by 2 guards dragging Coordinator Naxil. The Alarian's face was bruised and he could barely stand. Your governments are taking too long to respond, announced Krax. Perhaps they need motivation. He pointed to a Tel Nashi delegate, a tall, thin being with pale skin. You. Come here. The terrified alien was brought forward, trembling. This is being broadcast to all your worlds, said Krax. Your leaders have 6 more hours to meet our demands. For every hour they delay, someone dies. He raised his weapon. Wait. Captain Kim stood up. Take me instead. The room went silent. Even the terrorists seemed surprised. Krax laughed. The human volunteers. How noble, but unnecessary. He shot the Tel Nashi, who collapsed to the floor. Gasps and screams filled the room. Lieutenant Park grabbed Captain Kim's arm, stopping him from charging forward. You're next, human, said Krax, pointing at Captain Kim. In 1 hour, unless your Earth responds. They won't, said Captain Kim calmly. Not the way you want. Then you'll die, said Krax. Maybe, replied Captain Kim. But my death will only guarantee yours. After Krax left, the other delegates looked at Captain Kim with a mixture of awe and horror. You're insane, said a Vindari diplomat. Your government would let you die rather than negotiate? They won't abandon us, said Captain Kim, but they won't give in to terrorism either. Lieutenant Park leaned close. Sir, it's been almost 24 hours. If help was coming. It's coming, said Captain Kim quietly. We just need to be ready. He gathered his team in a tight circle. Listen carefully, he whispered. Earth will send rescuers. When they arrive, there will be chaos. We need to protect as many delegates as we can. Sergeant Bayek nodded. We can use the tables as shields. If we can get to that service door, we might be able to secure an escape route. Good, said Captain Kim. We'll need to move fast when the time comes. Across the room, the alien delegates watched the humans with confusion. Unlike the other species who sat in fear, the humans were planning, preparing. I don't understand them, said an Alarian to Coordinator Naxil. Don't they realize the danger? I think, said Naxil weakly, that they understand danger better than we do. On the Silent Arrow, Commander Kang's team prepared for battle. They checked weapons and armor. Some wrote letters to loved ones, just in case. 2 hours to target, announced Lieutenant Han. Commander Kang addressed his team one last time. Today we fight not just for our people, but for a principle. The galaxy will remember what happens here. They will learn that humans do not bend to threats. The soldiers nodded solemnly. Engage adaptive camouflage, ordered Commander Kang. The Laodin ship's exterior changed, becoming nearly invisible against the stars. It approached the station like a ghost, silent and unseen. Inside the station, Captain Kim felt a slight vibration through the floor. It was so faint that no one else noticed, but he recognized it immediately, the sound of breaching charges being set against a hull. He caught Lieutenant Park's eye and nodded slightly. She understood, and began quietly positioning the human team. What was that noise? Demanded Commander. Crack, suddenly alert. That, said Captain Kim with quiet satisfaction, is humanity's answer to your demands. And then the walls exploded. The walls of the station burst inward with 3 perfectly timed explosions. Through the smoke and debris came human soldiers in dark armor. They moved fast and low, their weapons ready. Commander Cracks shouted orders to his followers. Kill them! Kill them all! Chaos erupted in the main hall. The terrorists fired wildly while the delegates screamed and ran for cover. Captain Kim acted instantly. Now, he shouted to his team. They flipped the heavy tables to create barriers, then pulled alien delegates behind them for protection. Stay. Down. Lieutenant Park yelled to the frightened aliens. We'll keep you safe. Through the smoke, Sergeant Hajun Choi led the first wave of human soldiers. He spotted Captain Kim and signaled with a quick hand gesture. Captain Kim nodded back. The rescue was going according to plan. The human soldiers didn't waste bullets. Each shot found its target with deadly accuracy. They moved in perfect formation, covering each other as they advanced. Sector 1 clear, reported Sergeant Choi into his helmet comm. Moving to secure hostages. On the other side of the station, Commander Kang's team fought through the corridors. They faced heavy resistance but kept pushing forward. Remember your training, Commander Kang told his soldiers. Short bursts. Aim for center mass. No heroes today. We all go home, or none of us do. The terrorists had numbers, but the humans had surprise and better training. Years of fighting on Earth had made humans experts at close-quarters combat. Lieutenant Han checked her scanner. Commander, I'm reading 15 hostiles approaching from the east corridor. Set up a choke point, ordered Commander Kang. Team 2, with me to the command center. In the main hall, Captain Kim helped a wounded Alarian to safety. The alien looked at him with wide, confused eyes. You came back for us, the Alarian said. Even after your government refused to negotiate. We never said we wouldn't come for you, replied Captain Kim. We just said we wouldn't give in to terrorists. Nearby, Lieutenant Park worked with Sergeant Choi to create a safe passage for the delegates. The east corridor is clear, said Sergeant Choi. We can move the civilians that way. Lieutenant Park turned to the huddled aliens. Everyone stay calm and follow me. Stay low and move quickly. A Vindari diplomat shook his head. This is madness. We should wait for negotiators. The time for negotiating is over, said Lieutenant Park firmly. Now it's time to leave. Sergeant Bayek, who had been fighting alongside the rescue team, approached Captain Kim. Sir, Commander Kang reports they're pushing toward the command center. They've secured 2 of the 3 main corridors. Good, said Captain Kim. What about casualties? 3 wounded on our side. None fatal yet. The terrorists have lost at least 20. Captain Kim nodded grimly. Let's get these people out while we can. Commander Cracks watched in disbelief as his forces were pushed back. This wasn't how it was supposed to go. Previous hostage situations had always ended with concessions, with governments eager to avoid bloodshed. Sir, we're losing control of the lower decks, reported one of his lieutenants. These humans fight like nothing I've ever seen. Hold your ground, Cracks shouted. We still have hostages. We can still win this. But he knew it was a lie. Something had changed in the familiar pattern. These humans didn't play by the rules everyone else followed. Cracks made a decision. Pull back to the command center. Bring as many high-value hostages as you can. Commander Kang and his team approached the command center carefully. Their scanner showed multiple hostiles inside, along with several hostages. They've fortified the position, said Lieutenant Han. Standard frontal assault would result in heavy casualties. Commander Kang studied the layout on his tactical display. There, he pointed to a maintenance shaft. We can access the room from above. That shaft is barely wide enough for a person, said Lieutenant Han. Then we'll go one by one, replied Commander Kang. Prepare breaching charges. Inside the command center, Cracks held a weapon to Coordinator Naxal's head. Send a message to your fleet, he ordered. Tell them if they approach, I start killing hostages. They won't listen, said Naxal weakly. Not after what we've seen today. What are you talking about? Demanded Krax. The humans? Replied Naxel. They've changed everything. The Council will never negotiate with terrorists again. Above them, Commander Kang slipped through the maintenance shaft. He could see the room below through a small vent. He counted 8 terrorists and 12 hostages. Krax was easy to spot, the leader with 4 arms, each holding a weapon. Commander Kang whispered into his comm, "On my mark, 3, 2, 1. Dropped the first stun grenade through the vent. The flash and bang disoriented the terrorists below. 2 more grenades followed, then Kang and his team dropped into the room. The fighting was brief, but intense. When it ended, all the terrorists in the command center were down, and the human soldiers stood victorious. Krax, wounded but alive, looked up at Commander Kang with hatred. This changes nothing. There will be others like me. Perhaps, said Commander Kang coldly, and they will meet the same fate. 3 hours later, the station was secure. The surviving terrorists were in custody, and the delegates were receiving medical attention. In a makeshift command post, Captain Kim met with Commander Kang to assess the situation. 43 terrorists dead, 22 captured, reported Commander Kang. We lost 2 soldiers with 7 wounded. And the delegates? Asked Captain Kim. 8 dead before we arrived, none during our operation. Captain Kim nodded sadly. 8 too many, but it could have been much worse. Around them, the alien delegates watched the humans with new eyes. The fear was still there, but now mixed with something else, respect or perhaps awe. Coordinator Naxel approached Captain Kim. His wounds had been treated, but he still moved carefully. Captain, I must admit I did not understand your people's methods, he said. We have always believed negotiation was the only way. Negotiation has its place, replied Captain Kim, but not with those who use fear as a weapon. Your soldiers fought with remarkable skill, said Naxel, almost as if we've done this before. Captain Kim finished the thought. We have. For centuries, my people fought among themselves before finding peace. We learned hard lessons about dealing with those who would use terror. Lieutenant Park joined them. Sir, Earth Command is requesting a full report, and the Galactic Council has called an emergency session. I imagine they have questions about our methods, said Captain Kim with a slight smile. Many questions, agreed Naxel. Your approach goes against centuries of established protocol. Sometimes old protocols need to be reconsidered, said Captain Kim, especially when they no longer work. Across the room, Sergeant Choi was helping an alien child find her parent. The small being looked up at the human soldier with large, frightened eyes. Sergeant Choi knelt down to the child's level and spoke gently. Lieutenant Park watched this with interest. You know, sir, for all our talk of not negotiating with terrorists, we're quite good at building trust. That's the point, Lieutenant, said Captain Kim. We fight hard against those who deserve it so we can build peace with everyone else. Commander. Kang approached with a data pad. Captain, we've accessed the terrorists' communication logs. You should see this. The logs showed messages between the Void Collective and several council species. Some had been paying the terrorists to avoid being targeted. Others had been giving information in exchange for protection. It's worse than we thought, said Captain Kim quietly. The terrorists haven't just been attacking the galactic community. They've been part of it, finished Commander Kang. Lieutenant Park looked troubled. What do we do with this information? Captain Kim thought for a moment. We take it to the Council, all of it. It's time for the galaxy to face some uncomfortable truths. As human medics treated the wounded and soldiers secured the station, Captain Kim looked out at the stars. Humanity had come to the galaxy seeking friendship. Instead, they had found a test of their deepest principles, and they had not been found wanting. The grand chamber of the Galactic Council was larger than any room Captain Kim had ever seen. Curved walls rose hundreds of feet above, ending in a clear dome that showed the stars. Thousands of seats arranged in rising circles faced a central platform. Representatives from over 200 worlds filled the chamber. their voices creating a constant hum. It had been 2 weeks since the attack on Harmony Station. The Indomitable had returned to Earth with the human delegation, while the captured terrorists were held by the Alarians. Now Captain Kim found himself called to explain humanity's actions before the full council. Minister Taewon Lee stood beside him on the central platform. The minister looked calm, but Captain Kim could see the tension in his eyes. This was not going to be an easy hearing. The emergency session of the 427th Grand Council is now in session, announced a tall being with crystalline skin. We gather to address the recent events at Harmony Station and the actions taken by the newest species seeking admission to our community, the humans. The chamber quieted as a panel of 7 senior counselors took their seats at a crescent-shaped table. At the center sat Counselor Thrix, an Alarian with deep blue skin and piercing eyes. "Minister Lee, Captain Kim," said Counselor Thrix, "you stand before us to explain why your species disregarded established protocols for handling hostage situations. Your actions, while effective, resulted in violence that might have been avoided through proper negotiation channels." "Minister," Lee stepped forward. "Honorable counselors, distinguished representatives, I thank you for the opportunity to address this body. Let me be clear from the start. Earth does not apologize for its response to terrorism." A murmur ran through the chamber. "For centuries," continued Minister Lee, "humans fought among ourselves. During that time, we learned painful lessons about dealing with those who use terror as a political tool. The most important lesson was this: giving in to terrorists, even once, guarantees more terrorism in the future." Counselor Thrix leaned forward. "Minister, the Galactic community has protocols designed to minimize loss of life. These protocols have served us for over 900 years. "With respect, Counselor," replied Minister Lee, "these protocols have not stopped terrorism. They have encouraged it." The chamber erupted in voices, some angry, some supportive. When order was restored, Counselor Thrix spoke again. "That is a serious accusation, Minister Lee." "It is not an accusation," said Minister Lee calmly. "It is an observation based on evidence." He nodded to Captain Kim. Captain Kim stepped forward and activated a data display. "During our operation to free the hostages, we discovered communication logs from the Void Collective. These logs show messages between the terrorists and several council species. The display showed the messages: names, dates, and amounts of money paid to the terrorists, information shared about ship movements and valuable cargo, even warnings about which targets to avoid. Some council members have been paying the Void Collective to avoid being targeted," said Captain Kim. "Others have been sharing information about rival worlds. This isn't just appeasement, it's cooperation." The chamber exploded into chaos. Delegates shouted and pointed fingers. Some stormed out in protest. Counselor Thrix raised his hands for quiet. It took several minutes for order to return. "These are disturbing allegations," said Thrix. "The council will investigate fully. But this does not excuse your unilateral military action. Your species joined our community seeking peace, yet you brought war." "With respect," said Captain Kim, stepping forward, "we brought the ability to end war. There's a difference." A new voice spoke from the side of the chamber. "The human is right." All eyes turned to an elderly Vindari who slowly made his way to the center. He was Ambassador Krell, one of the hostages from the station. "I was there," said Krell. "I saw what happened. For years we have paid ransoms and released prisoners. And for years the attacks have continued, growing worse each time." He pointed a long finger at the human delegation. "These newcomers showed us another way. A harder way, yes. A more painful way, perhaps. But it worked." Minister Lee nodded in thanks to the ambassador, then addressed the council again. "We understand. Our methods seem extreme to your cultures. For humans, history has taught us that violence, when absolutely necessary, must be decisive. We will never negotiate with those who use terror as a weapon." From her position at a data terminal, intelligence analyst Mi Sun Bae sent Captain Kim an urgent message. He read it quickly, then whispered to Minister Lee. Minister Lee's eyes widened, slightly, but he kept his composure. Counselors, we have just received information that several council species had prior knowledge of the attack on Harmony Station. Some even helped plan it. The chamber went completely silent. Minister Lee continued, his voice harder now. Earth did not come to the stars looking for enemies, but we will not stand by while terrorism is used as a tool of diplomacy. If the Council cannot or will not address this threat, humanity will. Later, in a private meeting room, Captain Kim sat with Minister Lee and a small group of counselors who had requested a confidential discussion. Your evidence is compelling, said a Tellarite representative. But what do you propose we do? The practice of paying for protection is deeply established among some worlds. We break the cycle, said Minister Lee. Start by agreeing that no Council world will pay ransoms or release captured terrorists. Then form a joint security force to protect vulnerable shipping lanes and colonies. Such a force would require military training that many of our species lack, said a reptilian counselor. Minister Lee smiled slightly. Earth would be willing to provide such training. The counselors exchanged glances. This is a radical change to our approach, said one. Sometimes radical problems require radical solutions, replied Minister Lee. After the meeting, Captain Kim walked with Lieutenant Park along a wide corridor with windows looking out at the stars. What do you think, Lieutenant? Asked Captain Kim. Will they accept our offer? Some will, said Lieutenant Park. Others will resist. Change is never easy, especially for societies thousands of years old. True, said Captain Kim. But the alternative is worse. A galaxy where terrorists are treated as legitimate political players is a galaxy that can never know true peace. They stopped at a large viewport. Below them stretched the sprawling Council Hub, a city in space where thousands of species lived and worked together. It's beautiful, said Lieutenant Park. Worth protecting. Yes, agreed Captain Kim, even if they don't fully understand how. In the council chambers, the debate continued. Some delegates argued passionately for adopting the human approach. Others warned of the dangers of militarization. An Alarian representative approached Minister Lee. Your methods are effective, Minister, but at what cost? Is a peaceful galaxy worth achieving through violence? Sometimes, replied Minister Lee. Peace must be defended with strength. The cost of doing nothing is far higher than the cost of acting decisively. As the session ended for the day, Councillor Thrix called for a vote. The question, should the Council formally accept human security methods as part of Galactic Protocol, the Budding? Vote was close, but in the end, a small majority approved. Earth would provide training for a new multi-species defense force designed specifically to combat terrorism. Captain Kim received the news with mixed feelings. Earth had not come to the stars seeking to become their guardians. Yet perhaps that was exactly the role humanity needed to play, the species that remembered what it cost to remain free. As the Earth delegation prepared to depart, a young Alarian aide approached Captain Kim. Many still don't understand, she said quietly. They think your ways are too harsh. They will understand, said Captain Kim, looking out at the stars. Let's hope they never have to learn it the way we did. The fate of the galaxy had shifted, and humanity, the newcomers from a distant blue world, had become its reluctant protectors. 6 months had passed since the attack on Harmony Station. The great wheel of the New Earth Embassy turned slowly against the backdrop of stars. Inside the main observation deck, Captain Do-hyun Kim stood in his formal uniform, watching as ships arrived for the ceremony. Today, Earth would be formally admitted to the Galactic Council. Nervous? Asked Lieutenant Jiwoo Park, who stood beside him. A little, admitted Captain Kim. This isn't how I imagined our entrance to the galactic community. Few things ever happen as we imagine them, said Lieutenant Park with a small smile. The observation deck filled with delegates from many worlds. Some still looked at the humans with unease. Others now showed respect. The past 6 months had changed many minds. Minister Taewon Lee entered with Admiral Sun Mi-yoon, who now wore the insignia of Earth Security Council to the galaxy. Behind them came Commander Jin Ho Kang and Sergeant Ha Jun Choi, both promoted. After Operation Thunderclap, Captain, greeted Minister Lee. Ready for the big moment? As ready as I'll ever be, replied Captain Kim. A chime sounded, announcing the arrival of the council representatives. The crowd parted as 7 senior counselors entered, led by Counselor Thrix. Representatives of Earth, said Thrix formally. Today marks your world's official acceptance into the Galactic Council. This comes after much debate and consideration. Minister Lee bowed slightly. The people of Earth are honored to join this ancient and respected body. Your admission includes an unusual provision, continued Thrix. Earth will provide security training to our new multi-species defense force. This is the first time in Council history that a newly admitted world has been given such responsibility. We accept this duty with humility and determination, said Minister Lee. Counselor Thrix handed Minister Lee a crystalline orb, the formal symbol of council membership. As Lee raised it, the gathered delegates applauded politely. Earth was now officially part of the galactic community. After the ceremony, Captain Kim found himself pulled aside by Counselor Thrix. Captain, a word in private, said the Alarian. They moved to a quiet corner of the room. Your approach to the terrorist incident has caused a great deal of change, said Thrix. Not all of it welcome. Change is rarely comfortable, replied Captain Kim, but sometimes necessary. Indeed, said Thrix, which is why I wanted to speak with you. The Terra Doctrine, as it's now being called, has split the Council. Many worlds embrace it. Others fear it will lead to more violence, not less. And what do you believe, Counselor? Asked Captain Kim. Thrix was quiet for a moment. I believe that complacency is a dangerous thing. For too long, we accepted a certain level of terrorist activity as inevitable. We paid our ransoms and counted our losses. It was easier that way. Easy isn't always right, said Captain Kim. No, agreed Thrix. It isn't. Which is why, despite my reservations, I voted to approve your world's admission and the formation of the Joint Security Force. Captain Kim was surprised. Thrix had seemed opposed to human methods. Don't look so shocked, Captain, said Thrix with a small smile. Even old politicians can learn new tricks. At the newly established training center on a moon orbiting Jupiter, Commander Kang watched as representatives from 20 different species practiced combat maneuvers. Some were awkward, unused to physical training. Others showed natural talent. They're improving, said Sergeant Choi, who stood next to him. Slowly but surely. Some faster than others, noted Commander Kang. The Vindari have a natural talent for tactical thinking, and the Tel Nashi are surprisingly strong despite their thin frames. A young Alarian recruit approached them. Commander, a question about the non-negotiation protocol. What if the hostage is someone of great importance, a political leader or a child? Commander Kang looked at the recruit seriously. The protocol remains the same. If we make exceptions, terrorists will target those exceptions. The rule must be absolute to be effective. The recruit nodded, though he still looked troubled. It's not an easy thing to accept, said Commander Kang more gently. But history has proven it's the right approach. As training continued, Admiral Yoon arrived to observe progress. She watched the exercises with a critical eye before joining Commander Kang. How are they doing, she asked. Better than expected, replied Commander Kang. Most are eager to learn. A few still have doubts. Doubts are healthy, said Admiral Yoon. It means they're thinking. We don't want soldiers who follow blindly. They walked along the training floor, watching the various exercises. In one area, human instructors taught close-quarters combat. In another, tactical planning. A third focused on hostage rescue techniques. We've received disturbing news, said Admiral Yoon quietly. Intelligence reports have identified a major, Void Collective base in the Outer Rim. It appears to be their main staging area. Commander Kang's face hardened. When do we move? Soon, replied Admiral Yoon. But there's a complication. The base is in territory claimed by the Dravidi Syndicate, a council member. They've denied our request to enter their space. Let me guess, said Commander Kang. They've been working with the Void Collective. Admiral Yoon nodded. It seems that way. The council is divided on how to proceed. And Earth's position? Minister Lee has been clear. If the Council won't act against a terrorist sanctuary, Earth will. Commander Kang looked out at the trainees. Will they be ready in time? They'll have to be, said Admiral Yoon. This will be the first real test of the Terra Doctrine. Later that day, Captain Kim met with Minister Lee in a secure room at the Earth Embassy. The minister looked tired, the strain of diplomatic battles showing on his face. The Council is still debating, said Minister Lee. Half want to respect Drevity sovereignty. The other half support immediate action against the terrorist base. And while they debate, the Void Collective plans more attacks, said Captain Kim. Exactly, agreed Minister Lee. Intelligence suggests they're preparing something big, something that will make Harmony Station look like a minor incident. Captain Kim studied the star map showing the location of the terrorist base. We can't wait for the Council to reach consensus. No, said Minister Lee. We can't, which is why I've authorized Operation Sword Strike. Commander Kang will lead a joint force of our best trainees alongside human special tactics teams. It's risky, said Captain Kim. If we act without Council approval, some worlds might withdraw from the Security Pact. More risky to do nothing, replied Minister Lee. We didn't come to the stars expecting to become their guardians, but sometimes leadership means making hard choices. Perhaps that's exactly why we should be their guardians, said Captain Kim. Because we remember what it costs to remain free. In the final training session before deployment, Commander Kang addressed the mixed species force. They stood in neat rows, looking more like real soldiers now than they had 6 months ago. Tomorrow we launch against the main base of the Void Collective, he said. This mission is voluntary. Any of you may withdraw without shame. What we're doing is challenging, not just the terrorists but the old ways of the Council itself. No one moved. Every recruit stayed in place, ready to follow. Very well, said Commander Kang. Remember your training. Remember why we fight. Not for revenge, but for a galaxy where terrorism has no place. As the recruits dispersed to prepare, Sergeant Choi approached a group of alien trainees who were talking quietly. Many on our world still don't understand, said a Tellarite recruit. They ask why we take such a hard stance. They will understand, said Sergeant Choi, echoing Captain Kim's words from months ago. Let's hope they never have to learn it, the way humans did. The next morning, the joint force boarded their ships. For the first time in galactic history, terrorists would face an enemy that would never surrender, never bargain, and never forget. The Terra Doctrine had become reality, and the galaxy would never be the same. On the observation deck of the Earth Embassy, Captain Kim watched as the ships departed. Lieutenant Park stood beside him. Do you think it will work? She asked. This new approach? I don't know, admitted Captain Kim. But I do know that doing the same thing and expecting different results is the definition of insanity. An old human saying? Yes, said Captain Kim with a small smile. We have many of those. Here's another. The only thing necessary for the triumph of evil is for good beings to do nothing. As the ships disappeared into the distance, Captain Kim thought about humanity's strange journey among the stars. They had come seeking friendship and knowledge. Instead, they had found a test of their deepest principles, and in passing that test, they had begun to change the galaxy itself. For better or worse, the era of negotiating with terrorists was over.